Warning: you have just wandered into the unpopular playground arena, a unique space specifically designed for young adults and those soon becoming where curiosity meets unconventional learning and dialogue with brutal honesty. If you're a bold and daring rebel who wants more options on your life journey than you have now, keep listening. Welcome, Jen Lin.
Welcome back to the Unpopular Playground. This is Jen Lin with another Wednesday episode. In light of the LA fires that have been going on, I would be remiss to jump over that and not mention anything. Considering when I came back from Laughlin from my trip from Christmas vacation, I came right into the fire. So everything was on fire when I came back last Wednesday. So I have 5 points that I'm going to go over and cover, and it's what happened. Number one. Number two kinds of people. The two kinds of people, and that you're either prepared or unprepared. Third point, disaster isn't selective, and going over the whole socioeconomics thing, touching on that as a carryover of what I had discussed last week. It's a perfect highlight of this. And 4, control. What's in your control and what's out of your control. And 5, responsibility. So the first point, as I said before, I was just returning back to California and started seeing hearing about all of the LA fires. Definitely felt the wind as I was driving home. It was quite strong. And then hearing everything is on fire in the Malibu Palisades area, which was concerning because my dad is in the area, about 8 minutes away from the Palisades fires, and there was no containment, no sign of containment, and wondering if the fire was going to spread over to where he was at. I believe that Santa Monica is pretty close to there, and then had it hit Santa Monica, it would have easily spread over to the area where my dad was at, in Culver City. I think he said it was about 8 minutes away. So that was a concern. With all of that, trying to keep myself together amidst watching this shitstorm that could have easily been minimized with priorities. If the priorities were set straight from the beginning on the part of the California government, to include the governor, the mayor, and the fire chief, it's proof that it's a clear misalignment of priorities. And it definitely, I thought it would be a good lesson to put out for you, my dear listeners, to think about your priorities for yourself, for your families, and personally, and anything else that you might be responsible for. So I have these points for you to think about, to be able to at least get your head in the right place so that you can start jotting down what's most important. That's ultimately what priorities are. It's putting things in order of what you need to do first. Very much like baking a cake. It's pretty straightforward when you're cooking something. You get all of the ingredients together, then you mix them, put certain things in a certain order for it to turn out right. And if anything is out of order or there's a step that is skipped, it's not going to turn out right. So just something to think about. So now you have 2 kinds of people. You're either prepared or you're not prepared. When you think of that story, the 3 little pigs, the first one built his house of straw, then twigs for the second one, but the third one he took a little bit longer. He built his house out of bricks. It was nice and solid and wolf-proof, most likely fireproof. And the other 2, they were just not paying attention. They did a really crappy job building their houses. One was worse, one was a little bit better, and then you have the best. So he took more time, had his priorities straight because he didn't want to have to worry about anybody blowing his house over. Then you have the Girl Scouts. They're known for being prepared. Military. when I was in the military, we were always training, train as you fight. And when I was a teacher, we had, coincidentally, we had fire drills and we had earthquake drills. And then very recently, my last year of teaching in the classroom, we had shooter drills. Why? So that when all of these things happen, we can respond and react with some degree of automaticity to where we're not frozen and panicky. Because when you're under duress and anxiety, you're either going to fight, flight, or freeze. But if you practice what you need to be doing before it happens, rehearse it out in your head, and then practice it, you're going to be prepared for these things. And all of this did not happen in the state of California. I can tell you that. Based off of everything that I see, because when firefighters go to put out a fire and there's no water, and the mayor's not there, and the governor only wants to make excuses about what everybody else is doing and deflect everything, there's a clear indication of a misalignment of priorities. And when you're prepared, there's a buffer and you can lessen the damages. When you have your priorities straight and you're able to prepare, you can better survive until you can rebuild and get back to some degree of your new normal. Because the bigger the disaster, the less likely that your normal will ever be the same again. It's going to be different. You're going to have a new normal. And the more you are unprepared in whatever it is, this fire, LA fires, is a very good example of what it looks like to not have your priorities straight or be prepared. But it can be that way in your life as well. So think about that. And then the third point is disaster is not selective. In the last episode in You Matter, I talked about the big elephant in the room being socioeconomics. But that's what people aren't talking about. People just want to gloss over that and the differences between that. Well, a lot of it focuses on poor people not having what they need, systems not having what they need. And wow, as we've just now seen in these LA fires, firefighters not having what they need, to include people, competent people who can do the job, competent government, leaders who can fulfill their responsibilities and answer up to them when they're not done. And people pay taxes to expect to at least be safe, to have police come out when you're in danger, and when your house is on fire, for the fire department to come out and help rescue you if you're stuck, right? If there's people who can't do the job, that's a big problem. And I would dare say that that's when funds are misappropriated, that's stealing. That's stealing because you took money that should have been used for safety and used it for other things. And that's all I'm going to say. I'm not getting into the politics of things. I'm talking about priorities and what was clearly not a priority. That was ensuring that the fire department had what it needed, to include competent people, not fulfilling quotas. I'll just say that. Also, I talked about in the socioeconomics about it. A lot of rich people, a lot of our Hollywood, they lost their fires, homes, pets, memories, communities. And I was really saddened to see a lot of the hate going out. They're all people just like us, and they're all also blessed. They probably do have more homes. They have a better chance to probably rebuild, most likely, than we do. The average person that loses everything or their business, it's going to take us, the average person, the people who are struggling a lot longer to do that. But still, we're all human. And in this disaster, all people who are in LA, whether you're rich or poor, everybody lost, and they all pay taxes as well. And it's really sad for everybody. And anybody, shame on you for saying that you're glad that that happened to them too. I'm a little bit disappointed about that, but still. But on the flip, we have, check this out, all of the exploitation going on. You got lawsuit, people fishing for information, talking about, well, are you a victim of the LA fires? And the scammers are out trying to exploit all of the people in their misery. But the weirdest part about that was just after I talk about, we're all the same and divide, in what we lost. I heard about the Kardashians putting out a GoFundMe for Paris Hilton's $1 billion mansion to the public. Now, each one of those Kardashians, probably one by themselves, could probably help Paris themselves without putting a dent in their net worth, but they're going to go and put out a GoFundMe for other people who don't have a pot to piss in, that they're supposed to contribute to her mansion. That's pretty unrealistic, and that's selfish, and that, I would say, is exploitation. And that the Kardashians clearly don't have a sense of priorities or any shame in that. That's pretty sad. Control. That's my next point. You either have control or, things are either in your control or they're not in your control. And what you want to think about is, did you or are you doing what's in your control now to manage the damage control? So it's all about control. So to manage all of the damages that could happen now or in the future, did you or are you doing what's in your control? You think for yourself, and are those people in authority doing what they're supposed to do? Did they do it? And you think about authority. What is authority? It could be your mothers, teachers, CEOs, and government. And I went out on a limb and looked up accountability, what the top 5 things regarding authority of what they should be doing, what the tasks of what the average person in authority is supposed to do. And that would be accountability, support and development, communication to make sure it's free flowing. For support and development, you naturally nurture your people to make sure that they are growing in education, that they know what they need to know for their tasks, their responsibilities, that the communication is free flowing, that things are fair and consistent, and that people are competent, that they're competent in what they are doing, and safety and well-being, that they're safe, and that you're not mismanaging money. It's really, those are the five basic things of what you're supposed to do when you're an authority figure. And I know I'm going a little bit over time, but I think this is really important. I just on my last point, I did say that I wasn't going to go over a half hour, but so I'm well within my limits. Responsibility versus accountability. Sometimes people think that they're interchangeable, very similar. They're in the same family, in the same arena, but they're not. They're very different. One is a part of the other. It's very much like all rectangles are squares, but all squares are not rectangles. Kind of like that. So responsibility, it's an obligation to perform assignment of tasks. That's responsibility. Accountability is who is answerable for the outcomes, whether they're success or failures, but especially the failures. Think about all of the things that even in your household growing up, when you're at school, when you're at work, you're assigned a task, and if you fail, there's a consequence. People don't focus so much on the successes, but if you mess up, they're going to want a name to blame. Somebody told me once, there's a little bird that goes flying around, and he's looking, and his name is Blame, and he's looking for somebody to land on, and you want to make sure he does not land on you. So making sure he doesn't land on you, the blame is to make sure that you have your priorities straight, that you know your tasks, and Anybody that you are in charge of knows their tasks, that they have those 5 basic things down. Because guess what? If you don't have that done, I mean, you have to look out for yourself, but if you're in authority, it's not just about being large and in charge. It's about that accountability, that when the shit hits the fan, you're the one that's going to go down. Not so much your charges. It's who was responsible for making sure that you were safe, that you knew what you needed to know, that you were competent, that you were supported and developed, and that things are fair. If you are that one, well, yep, got to be accountable. And the higher up, the more that you're responsible for people. As the people increase, as the money increases, the bigger the budget, the more people you are an authority for. And especially when they can die or destruction happens and mismanagement, you don't have your priorities straight and things are mismanaged, there's a misalignment of priorities. The consequences are worse if you fail. And the accountability is much heavier when you're an authority figure. Those that are rushing to be large and in charge, it's not just about being a boss, it's being a leader, making sure that you have your responsibilities for yourself and for everybody else taken care of, minding your P's and Q's, crossing those T's, dotting those I's, and nobody's immune. Even if you're an older brother or sister babysitting, if you're the oldest sibling, I'm an oldest sibling. And growing up, if something wasn't done, it didn't matter if it was my brother's responsibility. I was the oldest. I was the authority figure. I'm the one who took the hit. I'm the one that got spanked. I'm the one that got punished because I was in charge. As a mother, teacher, military leader, all of the positions that I had in authority, I was in charge, and any damages, losses, anything to do with money, misappropriation of funds, I had to take the consequence. If my family screwed up when I was in the military, I got in trouble. Not them. I got in trouble. Not my students. If something happened with my son, if he got in trouble, I got in trouble because he was just a kid. That's accountability. And the bigger the consequence, that's when fines, jail, and loss of my privileges. And that's why we have law. That's why we have prisons and consequences for people who don't account for their responsibilities. If I failed as a teacher, you see it every day. People, ordinary people, if we don't handle our responsibilities, then we are accountable and we get swift consequences. And look at what's happened with these LA fires. Nothing but blame shifting, deflecting the blame as if they were not responsible. A governor, a mayor, and a fire chief, all with clear, misaligned priorities and no accountability. I definitely will be going over priorities and how you can align your priorities correctly, how you can prepare for emergencies and not just disasters, but maybe even personal disasters, to make sure that the things that you want in life will come a lot easier, and the things that are out of your control, that you'll be able to handle them a little bit better. That is it for this episode. I hope that I've given you a lot to think about, and we'll see you in the next episode next Wednesday. Stay curious. Bye for now. This is Jen Lynn. Thank you for listening.
Jen Lynn has now left the arena. You've been listening to The Unpopular Playground. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please make sure to subscribe for more thought-provoking conversations. We'd love your feedback, so drop a comment and let us know your thoughts. Don't forget to share this podcast with another bold and brave friend who might appreciate our adventurous journey together. And remember to return next Wednesday for our next episode, if you dare. And as always, stay curious. There's so much more to